Hello and welcome back, Coffee with Carl number 46. Now, things may look a little bit different. I am trying a couple of different setups here. So, you know, the chair is still in the corner, and I've been messing around with different lighting, and, you know, this has always been supposed to be a little bit more off the cuff, a little bit more relaxed, but I still sort of always am chasing that look that I have in my mind. And if you look back through the last 46 episodes, you'll see a whole bunch of different types of lighting setups. And so I'm always sort of trying something new to make it as visually appealing as possible. It's also a really good way to experiment and see what looks best, so that when I do my own interviews, I can have some level of, I don't know, consistency. You know, knowing what I'm doing and you know, being fluent with what I'm working with. So it's not always easy, and it's especially difficult when I have to sit here, look on my little monitor, hopefully things look good, and then go back, make a change, come back, you know what I mean, back and forth like that. When you have the camera on somebody else, you can make incremental changes that you can see, especially because the contrast of one thing to the next. So if you were to change the ISO and you were to bump it up just a little bit, you could see what that looked like. Whereas if I were to change it here and then go up and look at it and whatever, then it's like you almost can't see it. Now, luckily, a lot of the cameras now have remote control, like apps. So like with your phone or even with a computer, you could actually plug in an Ethernet cable and you can remotely do everything. And the whole idea for that is, I believe, broadcast. But when you think about it, that's a perfect solution for people like me who are sitting in front of the camera and operating it. So most of the time, I'll set the thing up. Hopefully it's good, or I'll do my, you know, series of adjustments and then hope that the autofocus does what it's supposed to do and just go for it. That hasn't always worked out, but I have refined the process to the point now where, like my main setup, right? I know what the key light should be at. I know I have markings on the floor where my tripod is supposed to sit. Everything is sort of adjusted, and I know the levels of everything, so it looks consistent. And that's just something that happens with hundreds and hundreds of videos and trying different things in different locations. And when I think back, my first video ever, I remember just, you know, seeing on YouTube or reading somewhere that you just need a lot of light. So I went and I bought a bunch of those shop lights from Home Depot, like 3 of those, surrounded myself with them. And if you look at that, you can tell. I mean, it's just like I'm blasted with light. And for a cheap camera and a cheap lens, at that time, I think I was shooting on a Canon 70D. And it was a great little camera. I loved it. It was awesome. Actually, it was probably very capable, but I didn't really know how to use it just yet. And so I was blasting myself with light. I think I had an off-camera mic, if I remember correctly, or maybe it was like a little lavalier or something like that, and just trying these different things. And when I think back to how, you know, when you look at it, especially from, God, I've been doing this for 8 years now. So 8 years ago, trying to figure out all those things at once, it's a pretty daunting task. You know, I mean, I remember thinking like, okay, what camera do I get? Can I shoot it all on a GoPro? Do I need a microphone? Do I need this and that? And this seems to happen to most YouTubers, is they think that the gear matters, like the camera gear, and in actual fact, it doesn't. You can now, I mean, especially back then, not so much, but now with these phones, you can do amazing things. You don't need all these setups and everything, but I think if you're somebody who just is always sort of chasing perfection, or at least, you know, chasing your idea of what perfection is, you're going to naturally do that type of thing. And that's certainly what I did. So, you know, that's why things look the way they do. That's why they sometimes will change. And what you're seeing is my tweaks and an attempt at getting something that is closer to what's in my brain, you know. So anyway, a lot of things came out this week. Again, we're in that time where a lot of products are coming out. It's the time of year that a lot of companies are selling things, especially running up to the holidays and everything. So a lot of good things did come out, and we're going to get into why Filson, again, failed at Workwear with their newest Worksmith series. But first thing I want to talk about is actually Ironheart did another tease of some more products they're coming out with. And I'm just going to explain to you my emotional roller coaster with this particular product. This is the N1 deck vest. Now, Ironheart has come out with this before. They tweaked it a little bit, and actually, I think they got rid of the circular stitch line with the pockets, which I always liked. It reminded me of the double RL kind of style, and I just think it looks cool. It's kind of old school, and it looks vintage, so I always liked that they used to do. The new deck vest gets rid of that, of course. It has the same beautiful alpaca wool lining, and I saw this, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get that this year. You know, that's really, really nice, and I've actually felt it in person. It feels solid, of course. Like Ironheart stuff, when you actually handle it, you can understand where the money went. I know that when I mentioned a $380 flannel, people go, that is so stupid, and I agree that's a lot of money, especially when you're used to $75 flannels, and then you see one that's really nice, it's $150. You go, well, what in the world is double the price and double the quality? I'm not saying that it's double the quality, it's not double the warmth, it's not any of those things. It's the combination of things. And it's very similar to when you handle a high-end firearm or a knife or camera or whatever, like perfect example. I have a Zeiss Otis lens, which is, I think the thing was like $5,000. Why is that better than my $1,800 50 millimeter? Well, because Zeiss decided that they were just going to pull out all the stops on that lens and make the best 50 millimeter they possibly could. I think it actually turned out to be like 52 millimeter or something like that. And so when you want the best, or you want that next level, unfortunately, it comes at a crazy upcharge. A lot of times double for not so much, and they call that diminishing return. And so my emotional roller coaster when I saw that this was about $600 and some odd was, ooh, I want that, to, I don't think I'm going to get that. Sadly, because I really think they did a great job. Looks beautiful, but too rich for my blood. Now, the good thing is that the secondhand market is your friend. And when you see something like this that you like and you go, I'm not willing to spend that kind of money on it, go check eBay and set up an alert. I mean, I've gotten most of the things I've gotten off of eBay off of an alert. And it sends you a thing. It says, hey, bing, there's an Ironheart N1 deck vest available in your size. You go there. Sometimes you can make an offer. You can even get it for a little bit less. But it's certainly not retail. Now, Ironheart stuff does hold its value. So that's another thing when you buy it. If you really don't like it, or it doesn't fit, or you just don't like it anymore, you don't wear it as much as you thought you would, you need a little extra cash, you can turn around and sell it for quite a bit. And recoup most of your loss. So that's really good. And I will say that sometimes that's the hidden benefit of buying some of these higher priced, albeit well-known brands, because the resale value is there. So when you buy something, it does hold its value, and you can get that back if you need to. Here's something I don't think I have ever talked about on this channel, and it is an alpaca sweater from the company Knickerbocker. This is something that I wouldn't normally cover, but I saw this color, and admittedly, I am a sucker for green, and it looks amazing. It's $350. This is the Bud Alpaca sweater, and I don't know if it's my attraction to the color green, or if maybe the years of listening to Weezer have infiltrated my brain, but this just looks to me like the coziest damn thing you could wear. And alpaca is extremely warm. Matter of fact, the previous product that I talked about, the N1 deck jacket, uses alpaca and wool on the lining. And alpaca wool, or fur or fiber or whatever, is so warm because it has they're hollow like fibers. So you actually trap warm air in there as well. So that's why it's so damn warm. And so this is guaranteed going to be one of those extremely warm sweaters. Now, I mean, is it the most accessible color? No, but luckily they do have it in brown, they have it in gray, they also have it in black. So you could get these in a number of different colors. And I know $350 is a lot of money. You can find cheaper, probably alpaca wool sweaters, but something about this with simplicity of it doesn't have any embellishments. There's no external branding. It's just a simple sweater, which, this time of year, especially here in New England, it's starting to get cooler, could be absolutely perfect. Bradley Mountain Doctor Coat. Now, they just came out with this, and I brought it up now because I want to make a contrast with something a bit later that a commenter did mention, and that's Best Made's return. So, take a look at this. Let's just look at it in and of itself for the moment. Now, this is the Doctor's Coat in Natural. It's $285, and it more or less is a very simple chore coat type of, I don't know if you would call it a shacket, because it is one layer, so, you know, it's not like a very heavy thing. It's not really a shirt. It's not really a jacket. It's somewhere in between. I would just say this is a light jacket, personally, because, again, they have coat in the name. And it's so funny how we use these terms interchangeably, right? Like coat. Typically, I think of a coat as a bit longer, a bit heavier. A jacket, I think of a shorter hem, something that is, you know, cut higher on the waist. And this is a single layer. So, you know, I think that sometimes it's a name for namesake. It kind of gives you an idea of where it should sit on your body, if it should go over layers or beneath them. And this looks really good, because I don't know if you some people did notice in the last video I was wearing it was actually from TCB, I think, and it was their reinterpretation of a Carhartt chore jacket, and it was like, or chore coat. There I go doing that. And it was just a single layer of denim, and it's perfect, again, for this type of weather, you know, where it's this transitional kind of weather. So it's small, you can roll it up, you can throw it in your backpack, whatever, and it just doesn't bother you. So this is perfect, and I think this is great. Bradley Mountain makes some really nice stuff. Now, it looks to me that the indigo version does get a little bit more expensive. So $285 for the natural version, which I think looks really good. $325 for the indigo dyed. I don't know if the indigo process is labor intensive, and that's why they're charging a little bit more for it. But this is 10-ounce indigo dyed duck canvas, so it's not denim. It's duck canvas, which is interesting. Japanese style butcher buttons, but I don't know if that's butcher, whatever. Chest pocket with unique pen slot. Do you have to have a unique pen to use that slot, or are they saying that pen slot is unique in this jacket? Because I've seen a lot of different jackets, and I'm not sure how unique that really is. It looks like it's sewn on the outside, so maybe it is. I don't know. I'm just kind of surprised why they would put unique there. That's kind of interesting. Interior chest pocket, shore pockets, pre-shrunk, made in the USA. Looks really cool. I dig it. Made in Nashville. You know, Bradley Mountain stuff is solid, so this looks very cool, and I wanted to bring this up for a product that I'm going to talk about right now. The story of Best Made is a little bit complex. Originally, you know, Best Made, you know, they made those like painted axes and stuff. And frankly, they were just painted axes. If you want a really good axe, you have to go with like, you know, Holtzbrook, Grand Force Brooks. There's a lot of different like axe makers out there who make really, really cool stuff. So, you know, you can find excellent axes. These were more or less wall hangers. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want an axe to be a display piece, cool, awesome. I think they could look really good as a display piece. As a matter of fact, I should probably hang one or two up around here, because I have the ones that I use, and I have the ones that I'm almost afraid to use because they're really nice. So, you know, anyway. So then Best Made, they had some clothes, they had some interesting little, like, you know, they had some pretty cool stuff. Matter of fact, I have a Best Made, it's supposed to tell you the temperature and the humidity, and when the 2 points cross, it's like the most comfortable time. It's kind of neat, I thought. Anyway, they used to have a lot of interesting things like that. Then Duluth Trading Company, or Duluth Holdings, bought Best Made, and they had them as sort of a sub-brand. So when you go to Duluth Trading Company, you could actually choose Best Made at the top, and there was a whole list of things that they offered. They had some chambray shirts. They had, I think they had a couple coats. They had some, of course, some of their like standard issue things that they had in the previous version before the buyout. And then I'm not really sure what happened, but the original owner bought it back. And as soon as I saw this, I signed up for the emails, and he was kind of keeping people posted as to what was happening with Best Made and sort of his process as he was finding some new suppliers and stuff like that to reignite the brand, which I thought was really cool. I was rooting for him, because I'm like, you know what? That's really cool. Seems like they did some interesting things. Although I will say that it didn't seem like the price really matched the quality with a lot of these things. Best Made, you're going to have to prove that, right? That's a lofty claim. Now, it's a great name. I mean, admittedly, it's a really good name. Their enamelware was another thing that they had a big, you know, selling thing with. I actually have some of that. It's really good. But anyway, clothes are a whole different thing, right? And I think that's what we're getting here. So Best Made's first product released this week. and it's kind of disappointing. Now, this is the Selvage Studio jacket. It's very similar to the Bradley Mountain jacket that I just mentioned, but it's $498. Now, there are some differences here, so I think that we have to look a little bit deeper to see if this is actually worth the added price increase here. So let's go look at the product details. The first thing I always look at is the materials and everything. There is a lot of information here. I think it's almost like overload, to be honest with you. It's just a bit too much. Now, this is 14.3 ounce, twill. So this is basically denim, which is a cotton hemp blend. It's 55% hemp, grown in France and spun in Italy, 45% organic cotton grown in Texas, spun in North Carolina. It's undyed, which is pretty cool. I always thought that was interesting. It does have a lining. There's a 5.2 ounce lining with 55% hemp. Same thing, 45% cotton. And it has a stripe pattern, Corzo buttons, and made in the USA. Now, okay, this is lined. The Bradley Mountain version was not, but when I look at this one and the natural Bradley Mountain, what is the big selling point of this? I can't tell you. I really can't tell you. I think that maybe it's a little bit darker. It looks to be not so bright white as the Bradley Mountain, but that will change very quickly if you wear it. The Bradley Mountain, though, being about $300 and this being about $500, I'm having a hard time seeing where that $200 upcharge is. And if this is your first product, I understand that sometimes they call it, I've heard it called a couple of different things, but the one that I'm familiar with is bracketing, which is more or less when your products are known to be in a certain price range. Think of Ironheart. When you go there, you know you're probably going to be spending $300 no matter what it is, probably more. And let's say you saw an Ironheart shirt up there that was $125. You'd think, what's wrong with that? It's fascinating. Honestly, I got to tell you, I really think that if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't have gotten into electrical. I would have gotten into marketing. Honestly, it is absolutely fascinating to me. And I find myself reading more stuff about marketing and like the psychology of buying and all that stuff, just because I think it's fun to read. Not that I'm considering, a career change this late in life. I mean, I hope I haven't reached halfway, but you know what I mean? But either way, maybe that's what they're doing here. They're simply bracketing this and saying, well, $500. This is gonna be kind of our range. We're gonna be in that $500, $600 territory with all of our products. But especially when it comes to a brand that has gone through some turmoil, I think you got to be really careful with pricing. And I think they priced this too high. The same thing can be said, I believe, for Payday, which is that same company. It is an older name, and Cockpit USA bought them, and I thought that their stuff was just a little bit too expensive. When you look at equivalents from other competitors, you have to do a little bit of market research. You have to look out there and say, okay, what's of a similar quality and what price are they selling it at? Because people like us and this channel and my main channel are going to make that comparison, because ultimately I want you to get the best thing you can for the lowest price. And to me, this $500 jacket, it's just so damn close to the Bradley Mountain that if what I was looking for was a lighter weight jacket to wear similar to this or the Bradley Mountain, the Bradley Mountain would be the one that I would go for, and then I get a nice dinner for $200, But anyway, that's just me. Maybe some people are totally like rah best made co. I don't know, but if you are, there you go. There's their first product. A company called Weiss Made, I had mentioned a while back and how I wanted to check out their stuff. They looked really interesting, and they have some cool stuff, and I'll actually talk about a product of theirs in a moment. But of course, we had this hurricane that ripped through the southeast, and it's really done a lot of damage. I'm sure that everybody knows about this and what's happened, and there are a lot of places that you can go and donate if you want to. And I think this is really cool because what Weiss Made is doing is helping out one of these small workshops that was affected, totally got flooded. I believe this is a husband and wife group or team, whatever, called Opie Way. And what Weiss Made is actually doing is, I think they're offering, is it 15% or 20%, something like that, off of, basically you get 15% off of a product, and they will match that and then donate to this GoFundMe that Opie Way has set up to sort of, I guess, hopefully rebuild their workshop, which was flooded out and stuff. So I think that's really, really cool of Weiss Made to do, because again, Weiss Made is a small company and they don't have to do this thing. I mean, every last dime really matters to small businesses. And can you imagine what a flood like that would have done? It's just crazy. So seeing people band together and other small businesses help small business, I think is so cool. And I applaud them for doing this. This is really, really cool. And I don't think you really need to look very far to find something that you would like on Weiss Made. Certainly go there and look around for yourself. One thing I wanted to point out to you, though, which they came out with, I think, this week, is their Bodega Shawl pullover. There's $198. And basically, think of this as an adult hoodie, okay? Like, you know, hoodies are fine. I have them. I love them. But they do have a certain look of adolescence to them, to me at least. You know, I mean, if somebody was wearing a hoodie and they were giving me advice on my retirement, would I naturally believe them? I don't know, maybe, but something like this where it's a shawl collar and has these buttons and it looks really, really put together. As a matter of fact, it looks like this is actually the piece that they layered beneath the jacket that I had mentioned a while ago, which is not dissimilar to the Bradley Mountain or Best Made Co. that I just mentioned. But either way, this looks really cool. And again, if you were to get 20% off of that, that's a significant savings. It comes in 3 colors: olive, what it looks like maybe a natural or a white, kind of off-white type of deal. Yeah, natural. And then, of course, it comes in like a deep charcoal blue kind of looking thing that they're calling basalt. So anyway, really cool stuff. 14-ounce French terry cloth. Well done, Weiss Made. You certainly have impressed me with that. I just think that's really great to see. And when you can see people banding together and doing this and businesses helping businesses, it speaks very highly of them. And this is the kind of thing that makes me want to recommend their products, you know, and them as a company. Now, here's a new one to me, and I don't know if this is a new company, but I'm intrigued. I want to see what they got going on here. This is called Bowie and Burton, which I think is Bowie and Burton. And they offer some cotton shirts. If you go on their website, they don't really have a lot yet, right? So I think that they're starting to get off the runway here, hopefully. And if you go to their cotton shirts section, you can get a couple of different things. You can get t-shirts, but what I'm interested in is they have some Henleys. And these Henleys remind me a lot of one that I had a while back from Stevenson Overall Company. Very similar to this with knit cuffs. Now, these are short sleeve. And they look very old school. Now, they come in navy. They come in natural. And let's see. The cotton used in these shirts is 100% recycled. They strip it down to its minimal structure, and then they build it back to be an earth-friendly fabric. The buttons are harvested Corzo nut. Yeah, so 150 GSM cotton, soft woven labels, $75. Where is it made in? It is made in America. So again, newer company. Maybe not something you want to jump on right away, but maybe something to keep on your radar for the future, because this is the way some brands start off, you know, like they start offering one great product and then they lump on another one and they lump on another one. Before you know it, they've built themselves to be something really spectacular. And so maybe Bowie and Burton is that. We'll see. All right, the time has come. We have to talk about Filson. Filson just released their second attempt, at least in recent memory, of a dedicated workwear line, I guess you would say. If you remember a while back, they had the CCF line, which was basically rebranded Tough Duck from Canada. And the way I found that out was I bought one Tough Duck vest and then I bought a CCF vest and I compared the two. And with the exception of the zipper being on one side versus the other, they were basically identical. And the Filson was double the price. And I could not find any reason for that increase in price. Now, not surprisingly, they didn't last very long. Number one, I don't think a whole lot of people who are actually working out in dirty conditions who need workwear are looking to Filson. Some people are, and I always get that one person who tells me about how they wore their Mackinac Cruiser throughout their job as whatever, and it's been great and whatever. And yeah, okay, great. Okay. There are outliers, but when you go on the job site now, I'll tell you what you find, because this is what I see. You see a lot of no brand stuff out there that people get from like Walmart or whatever. You'll see a ton of Carhartt. You will see Wrangler rigs, especially. There's a lot of True Work seems like popping up, and Ariat. Actually, I find a lot of Ariat on the site now too. So you see the same brands being represented, but by and large, people will just simply wear what is cheapest because they're blown through it. And so they won't really spend a lot of money on something unless they know it's going to basically give them the value that they're looking for. And I'm going to just repeat this again because this is my standard for workwear. Real workwear, which is designed to work, prioritizes protection and durability over style and comfort. Okay, so that's my definition. And then when we talk about heritage workwear, right, the stuff that a lot of times we talk about here, which is totally fine. I mean, I wear a lot of it myself, is the stuff that maybe is inspired by real workwear, but it puts a priority on the look and sort of the integrity of the materials used and all that stuff. So think of Ironheart versus Dickies, right? They just are simply two different things, although they look very similar. And so that can be confusing to some people. All right, now I had to kind of preface this whole thing with that. Let's kind of set out our terms, right? That's at least what I'm operating by, because that's the yardstick that I am going to use to judge Filson's new line here. So again, this is called their Worksmith workwear. They have, let's start with the pants. They have two pants. There are double layer pants, which are simply double front, and then they have regular pants. Now, what's interesting about these, the double layer pants are $165. The regular pants are $125. So maybe, not outside the realm of, I mean, Patagonia workwear is very expensive. 1620 workwear is very expensive. There's a few brands that are workwear, which are in this price range. Filson did something interesting with these that I don't understand why. They gave them both a double seat. So there's a double layer of fabric on your butt. Why would you need that? What I have mostly noticed is I will wear out the knees, especially, kneeling down because of the work that you have to do as an electrician, which is low. Sometimes the hem, by your boots. Of course, the pocket corners from clipping tape measures onto them. And sometimes, you get holes elsewhere, just depending on what you go. You go by a stud and you rip the thigh, whatever. A lot of things like that happen. I have never once worn through the seat of my pants. Now, I can't understand why this would be a thing, other than just trying to be a little bit different. If you were maybe somebody who was working on asphalt shingles and had to kind of, sit on an abrasive substance which would wear through, maybe I don't know. In which case, I would imagine that a company like Blackladder or Engelbert Strauss or what's the other one there? Snickers Workwear, who use a lot of Cordura reinforcements. Cordura is just insane. Would be a better fit. What Filson's doing here is they're using 12 ounce cotton canvas. Really no different. Carhartt also uses a 12 ounce cotton canvas. So same material, more or less. So those are the pants. I do think it's really cool. They give you these gigantic back pockets with a flap. However, that flap doesn't look like it has any secure, you can't snap it, you can't button it, you can't zip it. It's just a flap. And that flap is just going to get in the way, in my opinion. When you're usually working, you're typically reaching back with one hand. And so you need to be able to get into that flap. I don't really know what that's going to do. It looks like it's just kind of thrown on there for looks. If it's snapped down, I could say, cool, well, at least you can keep things secure in your back pocket, especially, let's say you're working at heights and you want that double layer of protection. Maybe then, I don't know. They don't look half bad, but, that's a lot of money, especially when I would say that the closest competitor to these would be the Carhartt BO1 or similar type of pant, which are like $50 or $60. Why would I pay double? And in the case of these double layer pants, why would I pay triple that price for the Filson version, which is imported? I don't know. I don't know. Again, swing and a miss there. But where they really, really missed, in my opinion, is actually on the jackets. So the first one that they have here is the Worksmith Insulated Bomber. It's $295, made from that same 12-ounce cotton canvas. The insulation is just sort of a generic polyester quilted insulation, the same stuff that you would find on the inside of basically any quilted nylon jacket. Now, why would they call this a bomber jacket? I have a hard time understanding that very simple point. Bomber jacket, it depends on which one you're referring to, right? I mean, are we talking about the B3 bomber? I really doubt it. Are we talking about okay, you get my point, right? Like, it's a bomber jacket. When I think of bomber, though, I typically will think of, a rib knit collar, rib knit cuffs, something that's shorter. And this does both those things, but it also has a hood. I think that basically what we're looking at here is simply an active jacket type of hooded jacket, of which I have 10 of them sitting over there, which are going to be a part of a big comparison that I'm doing very soon because I wanted to compare those, and there are a lot cheaper than this. And this jacket and the next one both use this generic polyester insulation with a 12-ounce cotton shell. You can find that from a number of different companies. Like I said, I have them sitting over there waiting for me. Duluth Trading has one. Almost every workwear company, Burn, Dry Duck, Carhartt, of course, Dickies, Ariat, they all have some version of this two-hand warmer pocket, hooded, maybe chest pocket jacket. And they don't cost $300 for an imported jacket. What am I getting here except for the Filson name, which I don't really care about? Admittedly, this does give you kind of a cool-looking chest pocket. I guess that's obviously taken from their Mackinac Cruiser or that style jacket, which is cool, but it's not enough for me to pay that much. I'll go and get this thing sewn on there if I had to. That's just a lot of money. Then for the same price, they have their Worksmith insulated jacket, which is all the same stuff, but in a more traditional layout, I guess, if you want to call it that. This one, it's the same thing as the last one. I just don't understand why would you want this? It's $300 for something that has very lackluster specs. And I mean, at least give me like 3M Thinsulate. That's lower bulk, higher warmth, but this is just a generic polyester insulation. So it's not warmer than your average work jacket. It's not made in the USA, which a lot of people like, especially here for their workwear. It's not particularly interesting or innovative. It's just simply, okay, they do have metal shank buttons. That's cool. So does this Patagonia that I'm wearing right now. I think that's pretty neat, but I'm not going to spend that much more for it. So in my opinion, this Worksmith line is a swing and a miss. They really missed. They messed up on this one. And I really wonder, actually, who's making this for them, because as we know, unfortunately, Filson just is outsourcing everything now, and it's just they're nowhere near the way they used to be. So who's making these? Before it was Tough Duck. Who's making these for them? In my opinion, I'd find out who that was, and then if you really are dead set on these, go and buy it from them, because you're probably going to pay half the price. I'm not going to see any of these on the job site. If anything, I think maybe those double layer pants are kind of cool looking and maybe the best of the bunch, but for $165, I could give you about a dozen better options that will kind of have the same specs and cost you a lot less. It's a shame. It's a real shame, because again, I think that Filson has simply become their own worst enemy. And if they had offered this line and cut the price in half on all of those products, maybe then we'd have something to talk about. $150 for that jacket, I would say, well, that's still pretty high, but it's not too bad, and it's within the range of some other competitive options. But $300? What are you giving me? Anyway, it's too bad. And I hope that Filson finds their way, and they keep disappointing me with things like this. All right, friends, we are going to go to the patrons only segment of this video now, but I thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, I have the weekly roundup newsletter that I send up, which basically consolidates everything in this video to one. Of course, there is the Patreon if you choose to join that. If not, no big deal. We've been actually having a lot of good conversations over there, and there's some very smart people who are even challenging some of the ways that I think, and I always welcome that. I love some sort of a, conversation which makes you think differently about things. And if you know it's coming from a good place, right? So in a case like that, people are paying to be a part of this thing. I take what they say very seriously, because obviously they're not my enemy. They're not out to, you know, like, you gotta be careful with trolls and all that stuff, right? But these are people who genuinely are showing their support monetarily. And so when they have something to say, I will listen. And it's been actually very good. I gotta say, it really helps. It's nice when somebody kind of holds a mirror back to you and you don't get too wound up in your own stuff. You know what I mean? Either way, I just love it. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will catch you next week. Who knows what's going to come this week? I can't wait to see, because this has just been some very exciting times with new releases and stuff. So, yeah, pretty good. And just to tease it out a little bit, my Thursday collab will be coming very soon. Keep an eye out for that.